Democracy in America by Alexis de Tocqueville. In 1831, a young French aristocrat named Alexis de Tocqueville arrived in the United States, tasked with studying its prison system. What began as a narrow mission blossomed into a profound exploration of American democracy, captured in his seminal work, Democracy in America, published in 2 volumes in 1835 and 1840. Tocqueville, a keen observer with a sharp mind, saw America as a living laboratory for democracy, a system still experimental in a world dominated by monarchies and aristocracies. His journey across the young nation, from bustling cities to rural townships, revealed a society unlike any in Europe, one defined by equality, participation, and potential. Through his meticulous analysis, Tocqueville not only described America's political institutions, but also probed the cultural and psychological currents shaping its people. His insights, blending admiration with caution, remain a timeless guide to understanding democracy's strengths and vulnerabilities. Tocqueville's first impression of America was its uniqueness, shaped by history and geography. Unlike Europe, with its feudal traditions and rigid hierarchies, America had no entrenched aristocracy. The Puritan settlers who landed on its shores brought ideas of self-governance and equality, planting the seeds for a democratic society. The vast, resource-rich land, free from powerful neighbors, gave Americans room to experiment without fear of invasion. Tocqueville was struck by what he called equality of conditions, a society where social distinctions were minimal and anyone could aspire to rise. This equality fueled ambition, broke down old barriers, and set America apart. Yet, Tocqueville sensed that this same equality could create challenges, fostering restlessness and pressures to conform, themes he would explore deeply. At the core of American democracy, Tocqueville found the principle of popular sovereignty, the belief that the people are the ultimate source of power. This idea pulsed through every level of society. In small New England towns, citizens gathered to debate and decide local matters. From building schools to fixing roads, they voted in elections, served on juries, and took pride in shaping their communities. Tocqueville marveled at this hands-on engagement, so different from Europe's distant bureaucracies. Participation wasn't just a right, it was a duty that gave Americans a sense of ownership. But Tocqueville saw a shadow in this system. The will of the majority, so central to democracy, could become oppressive, silencing dissenters and minorities. He called this danger the tyranny of the majority, a concept that would echo through his work. America's decentralized government captivated Tocqueville, especially in New England's townships. These small communities ran their own affairs, with citizens meeting face-to-face to make decisions. This local control empowered people, fostering a sense of responsibility and preventing power from pooling in a far-off capital. Tocqueville contrasted this with Europe, where centralized systems often crushed initiative. America's federal structure, balancing state and national powers, struck him as a masterpiece of design. States could experiment with policies, while the federal government handled broader concerns like defense and trade. This flexibility kept democracy dynamic, allowing it to adapt without losing cohesion. The United States Constitution, with its separation of powers, earned Tocqueville's admiration. By dividing government into legislative, executive, and judicial branches, it prevented any one part from dominating. The judiciary, particularly the Supreme Court, played a unique role, checking democratic excesses through judicial review. Tocqueville saw judges and lawyers as a kind of American aristocracy, not of birth, but of intellect. Their respect for law and precedent brought stability to a system that could be swayed by popular passions. This legal tradition, he argued, protected individual rights and kept the majority's power in check, ensuring democracy didn't spiral into chaos. Yet Tocqueville's admiration came with warnings. The tyranny of the majority wasn't just a political problem, it was social and cultural. In America, public opinion held immense sway, pressuring individuals to conform. Those who challenged the majority risked ostracism, stifling free thought and expression. Tocqueville worried that this could lead to a soft form of oppression, where dissenters were silenced not by force, but by social exclusion. To counter this, he pointed to strong institutions like the judiciary and a culture of open debate. Without these, democracy could slide toward despotism, driven by the very people it empowered. Another pillar of American democracy, Tocqueville observed, was its vibrant network of voluntary associations. Civic groups, churches, and professional societies dotted the landscape, bringing people together for common causes. These associations filled a gap left by equality, which could isolate individuals in their pursuit of personal gain. By joining clubs or charities, Americans built community, learned cooperation, and stayed engaged in public life. Tocqueville saw these groups as a bulwark against government overreach, allowing citizens to solve problems without relying on the state. This spirit of collective action, he believed, was a secret to democracy's success. Religion, too, played a vital role, but not in the way Tocqueville knew from Europe. In America, the separation of church and state allowed religion to thrive independently, free from political entanglements. Tocqueville was struck by how Americans saw faith as a partner to liberty, not a rival. Religion provided moral guidance, encouraging self-restraint and civic virtue. It reminded people of duties beyond themselves, countering the selfishness that equality could breed. By shaping values and fostering community, religion helped democracy stay grounded, preventing it from descending into disorder. The press also caught Tocqueville's eye. Newspapers were everywhere, from small towns to big cities, reflecting America's decentralized spirit. They informed citizens, sparked debate, and checked power by exposing abuses. Yet Tocqueville cautioned that the press could amplify majority opinion, reinforcing conformity. Still, its role in spreading knowledge and fostering discussion was undeniable. The press, like associations in religion, gave Americans tools to engage with their democracy, keeping it alive and responsive. Despite these strengths, Tocqueville saw risks. Centralization was one. If power shifted too much to the federal government, local autonomy could erode, weakening the grassroots energy that fueled democracy. Another tension was between equality and liberty. Equality opened doors, but it could pressure people to conform, threatening individual freedom. Materialism was a third concern. Americans' drive for wealth drove progress, but risked creating a shallow culture where civic duties took a back seat to personal gain. Tocqueville urged vigilance to keep these forces in balance. In the second volume of his work, Tocqueville turned from politics to the social and cultural effects of democracy. Equality, he argued, was a double-edged sword. It broke down barriers, letting anyone rise, but it also bred restlessness. With no fixed hierarchies, Americans constantly chased status or wealth, comparing themselves to others. This created a society of strivers, ambitious but anxious. Tocqueville saw this as a hallmark of democratic life, where opportunity came with a subtle pressure to keep up. He introduced the term individualism to describe a democratic tendency. Unlike selfishness, individualism meant withdrawing from public life to focus on personal or family matters. This could isolate people, weakening civic bonds. Tocqueville worried that individualism might leave citizens disconnected, less willing to engage in the collective work democracy required. But he found hope in associations and local governance, which pulled people back into community life, fostering cooperation and shared purpose. Materialism, Tocqueville noted, was woven into America's fabric. The pursuit of wealth drove innovation and growth, but it risked creating a utilitarian culture, where art, literature, and philosophy were valued only for their practical use. Americans, he observed, favored ideas with immediate applications, excelling in technology but less in abstract thought. Democratic literature, he predicted, would be accessible but less profound, shaped by the majority's tastes. Public opinion could also stifle intellectual originality as people hesitated to challenge norms, a threat to the diversity of ideas. Family life reflected democracy's influence. American families were less hierarchical than Europe's, with women and children enjoying more independence. Yet gender roles remained distinct, with women focused on domestic life. Tocqueville admired American women for their moral influence, believing their education and independence strengthened families. Strong families, in turn, supported democracy by fostering stability and values, a quiet but essential foundation. Religion, once again, emerged as a counterweight by promoting moral values. It tempered materialism and individualism. Tocqueville saw its influence not in laws but in habits and beliefs, shaping how Americans lived. It reminded them of duties beyond personal gain, helping democracy avoid chaos. This indirect role, he argued, was what made religion so effective in a democratic society, anchoring it in shared principles. Tocqueville's most haunting warning was about soft despotism. He imagined a future where citizens, obsessed with comfort and equality, surrender power to a centralized state. This state, acting like a gentle parent, would regulate lives in minute detail, eroding liberty without force. People might trade freedom for security, losing their sense of agency. This gradual, insidious threat, Tocqueville argued, was unique to democracies, where apathy could be as dangerous as tyranny. The tension between equality and liberty ran through Tocqueville's work. Equality opened opportunities but could flatten diversity and freedom. Liberty, meanwhile, required active citizenship, strong institutions, and a culture that valued individual rights alongside collective good. Tocqueville believed democracy's success depended on this balance, a challenge that required constant effort. Americans, he thought, were well equipped to meet it thanks to their institutions and habits, but the risk of failure was ever present. America, for Tocqueville, was both a model and a cautionary tale. Its local governance, civic engagement, and institutional checks were worth emulating, but its challenges, conformity, materialism, and the lure of centralization, demanded attention. He didn't see America as flawless. His focus on New England, for instance, missed the South's reliance on slavery, a glaring contradiction to equality that he noted but didn't fully explore. His aristocratic lens sometimes tinged his views with nostalgia, and his warnings about despotism were speculative, though strikingly prescient. In the end, Democracy in America is a masterpiece of political and social thought. Tocqueville's genius lay in seeing democracy's promise and peril. He celebrated America's energy and innovation, but urged caution against its excesses. Democracy, he taught, isn't a gift, it's a responsibility. It demands participation, moral grounding, and a commitment to liberty. Whether in 1830s America or today's world, his words remind us to stay engaged, question the majority, and guard our freedoms, lest they slip away quietly.